This is the She Dares to Travel podcast, and I am your host, Raquella Pollock. After spending a decade managing the #1 travel agency in Canada, I am now here to connect you to women that are taking the travel industry by storm, as well as female business professionals that also have a passion for travel, just like me. We are here to inspire, uplift, and motivate you to not only follow, but plan out your dreams, no matter where in the world they may be. And of course, this wouldn't be possible without our sponsor, Staples Studio, where I am currently recording from. Check them out on their website, studio.staples.ca. It truly is a new approach to co-working with community at its heart. There's access to hot desks, meeting, and event spaces all across North America. So thank you, Staples Studio, for connecting us and sponsoring this podcast. And thank you for listening. Enjoy, be sure to subscribe, and follow along. Thank you to Hotel Z Kelowna, Victoria, and Tofino for being our sponsor. You can also save 15% off your next getaway using the code DARES2, DARES 2, the number 2, at hotelz.com. These funky and unique hotels are in British Columbia, and they're going to have you not wanting to leave while you're on your next vacation. Enjoy. Hello, all you daredevils. Welcome back another day. And today I am excited to talk about sun destinations, travel destinations, but particularly to somewhere hot and warm and sunny. Although it is December here in Kelowna in the Okanagan, and usually we're minus 10 plus degrees in December. However, we've been blessed with a beautiful, warm, 5+ degree type of beginning and start to the year. Or to the end of the year, I should say. So it's interesting to start thinking about warm sun destinations, but I know a lot of people tend to have reoccurring trips this time of year, especially in Canada when it starts to get a bit more gloomy, cold. We want the sunshine, vitamin D, however we can get it, whether it's tanning beds, red light therapy, or booking a trip, which that's probably one of my favorite things to do. So planning a sun vacation is something that's super fun. If you've done it year on year, you kind of start to get the gist of it. If it's something that's new to you, this episode's going to bring in some different ideas, different ways on and tips that you can book your next sun vacation, as well as some tips and advice for when you already booked for the all-inclusive trip, what to do leading up to before your flight and your travels, as well as what to do when at the resort or when you're in the area. So I'm really excited to share all of the knowledge of what I've learned spending 10 years in the tourism industry managing a travel agency. So let's get it started. First of all, how do you even pick where to go? I know it's hard. There are so many different places when it comes to Mexico and the Caribbean. And a lot of the time it's hard to know where to go. I've had many, many former clients that have said, hey, I just want to go somewhere hot. I just want warm. I want sun, sand, and a beach. It's like, okay, great. Where do you want to go? No idea. Okay. So how do we narrow it down? These are the questions you need to ask yourself to help figure out what destination is going to be the best for what it is you're looking for. So first things first, you want to consider the season that you're going. So winter months are the best time outside of hurricane season to go to Mexico and the Caribbean. So when you're looking at between November and March into April as well, that is going to be the best weather season. It doesn't mean you may not get any rain. Tropical storms still do happen. It's just way less likely for a hurricane. So if you don't want to go, or if you don't want to go during hurricane season, that's the winter months for us that you want to pick. So choose a season you want to go. In saying that, if you do have flexibility and you're okay to go in the off season, which is more May to October, I've traveled to the Caribbean and Mexico during this time of year, and it was absolutely fine. We had some tropical downpours. The prices are better, so keep that in mind. But for most of us, we tend to go during the better weather seasons, which is November into April. Also, you want to take a look at your budget. How much money do you want to spend when it comes to a lot of the ways you can travel to these all-inclusive, specifically from Canada or North America, is usually all-inclusive. So it includes your accommodations, your airfare, your transportation to get to and from the airport. But take a look at your budget, and determining how much you want to spend will also factor in the star rating of the hotel. Typically in Mexico and the Caribbean, I always say a 3-star is like a 2-star, a 4 is like a 3, and a 5 can sometimes be like a 4. So you really want to be careful on what resort you're looking to stay at and pick something that's going to fit your budget, but also the level of quality that you're looking for, whether you're wanting something more budget or something a little bit more higher end. So those are the key things to start with when it comes to planning your trip and starting to think about it. And then I always recommend, what do you want to do? What's your priority on this trip? Do you want beautiful scenery? Do you want a balcony where you're going to be able to see the ocean the whole time that you, or anytime you're in your room? Do you want more photography spots? Maybe you love taking travel photos and you want to make sure there's really unique places that you're grabbing in the place you're in. Or maybe are you looking for more adventure? Do you want hiking trails? Do you want to experience a new type of culture? Do you want to experience new food? Or is history important to you? Do you want to know more about the history of the place you're visiting, the island you're going to, and what happened there? So really take a look at what your travel priorities are. Maybe again, you just want sun, sand, a cocktail in hand, and you want to do a good old fly and flop vacation, which is my favorite. A good old fly and flop vacay. Honestly, so much fun. So those are some thoughts to really think about when you're starting to kind of get into the conversation of where you're wanting to go. And then I always say, okay, now you kind of have an idea of where you want to go. You got a budget, you got the seasonality of when you're going. How far do you want to fly? Some people hate flights, hate airplanes. I don't blame you. I find them very comforting myself. It really is a time and a place for me to unplug and read or write or, binge watch the show that I haven't watched in forever. So, how far do you want to fly? Western Canada, North America, very easy to get to Mexico. Eastern, you're going to make a lot more stops to get to Mexico. On the flip side, getting to the Caribbean can also be a lot longer too. Usually 3 flights are involved if you're from a regional place like where I am in Kelowna. If you're way further out, if you're in Europe, Australia, I know you're going to have to fly far, but take a look at maybe what's the most direct and nonstop if you don't want to have a ton of layovers and hopping that takes up a lot of your travel day. So think really hard on how far you want to go. And then the pros and cons of how that's going to work for you of that destination. So are you wanting to go back to a familiar destination, or do you want the excitement of going somewhere new? Because all of these questions and sitting down and really taking the time to think about what it is you want, it's going to narrow it down to where you want to go. It really, really is. Another thought too is take a look at, maybe you only have a 2-week window of when you can travel. Take a look in a couple of the destinations or talk to a travel agent and say, hey, I'm thinking of going to, different parts of Mexico. Are there any festivals going on? Is there any really unique cultural things happening in some of the towns that I could go to that's really unique? Maybe that's something that could be interesting and also further help narrow down your destination. I always would love it. We'd get clients that would walk into the travel agency and they would say, okay, I've got 3 weeks and I can go anywhere. Would just get me the best deal. And I'd say, okay, but what is it that you want? Oh, whatever, it doesn't matter. But then when we started asking these questions, it started to really narrow down where they wanted to go. And then knowing the different destinations and having those travels and advice from sending people places, it really helped us figure out better what would suit their needs. So you can do that for yourself as well by asking yourself these type of questions. So now that you've already narrowed down where it is you want to go, you have a great idea of thinking, what you like to see. Another favorite question of mine, actually, to further help narrow down is when it comes to just wanting beach and sun and sand, what type of beach do you want? Are you okay with more of a brown caramel looking kind of sand with deeper blue ocean? Or do you want that Caribbean turquoise water with the white sand beach? Because that's going to completely split off and narrow down where it is you want to go. So make sure you take a look at that. So the seasonality, your budget, what are your travel priorities? Think about how far you want to fly and how many connections you want to have. And then see if there's anything special that's happening in the area for what you want to do. And then make sure you take a look at what type of sandy beach you want. Because really that's all those things. And if you brought all of those answers into a travel agency and said, hey, so this is my plan. This is what I'd like to do. Oh my God, that's like a jackpot when it comes to helping out a client. Okay. That makes our job so easy where we're like, great. Let me put a list together of some different options and see what it is you'd like to do. So great way for you to find out what you want. And also, so you're not going to be disappointed. Nobody wants to have an idea of what something's going to be on their trip and then they show up and it's the complete opposite. So highly recommend to invest in the time to do that. Okay. So now you've got your destination. You figured out where you want to go. You're super excited. And maybe you've got two different destinations you like, and you kind of want to weigh out the pros and cons of each one. So now it's going to be the time to figure out when to book it. What are you going to do for that? Again, go ahead, use a travel agent if you want. If you're more hands-on and you want to do it yourself, totally fine. Start monitoring the flight prices, or if there's packages through Expedia or WestJet Vacations, or maybe some other booking site that includes airfare and hotel. Start to take a look about 1 to 4 months in advance, preferably more time than less. You can use Hopper, Skyscanner, or FareDrop, and they actually will monitor your route and send you a notification if the prices change. So that's one way to kind of see the trend of how things are going. So ultimately, the way that it works with the airfare is years ago, many, many moons ago, when I first started, 12, 13 years ago now, it probably was, there were a lot of last minute deals. There were sell-off seats of airplanes that they just needed to fill the plane. Nowadays, we don't see those as much. When I was working at the travel agency, it really was something where we would think, okay, we will take a look. But all we were noticing is the seats would just sell out. They'd either sell out, there was no opportunity to do these seat sales because they would just be gone. So how it works with the aircrafts is they only have a certain amount of seats in their lower fare. That lower fare is at, for just easy math, let's say $100 plus tax. Once those sell out, moves up to the next higher fare. That chunk of seats, once those are out, the next, and so on and so on and so on. So as the plane books, if they're seeing that it's in high demand, they're not going to drop those seat prices. Why would they? It's high demand. They know that eventually someone's going to need to go on this flight. So they'll probably just keep the rates as they are. So definitely keep an eye on that, but keep that in mind if you're really wanting to go and you only have a certain amount of time off, specific 2 weeks, then I highly recommend to book it as soon as you can, when you have a comfortable price that you're at. That's my 2 cents on there. Another thought, of course, is you can research for the different areas that you have. So let's say, you've picked the research, you've got it, you have talked to family and friends about things to do when you're there. TripAdvisor. I love TripAdvisor. However, always take it with a grain of salt, because I have seen some horrendous reviews that make no sense. Like, oh, it was a great holiday, but 2 stars because the beach was too sandy. Sand got everywhere. Awful. Awful holiday. I can't handle it. Yeah, that actually has happened. So make sure, what I always recommend is, if you're looking or reading other people's reviews, look at their photos, because the photos cannot lie. You can actually read or get a lot from the photos to see maybe if there's cracks in the pavement by the pool, or there's some paint chips on the walls. And if you're okay with that, then fine, who cares? But if you want something a bit more pristine, really examine the photos on sites like TripAdvisor or any other places that do have that too. So that's a really big one as well. Otherwise, the other things too is, now that you've got your destination, take a look at the travel advisories. I know after 2020, we all definitely have a bit of PTSD from travel advisories to countries, if I do say so myself. But it's important to see what's going on in that country from your government's website. So just to kind of understand if you need a specific visa to enter the country, if you need to have a certain amount of months or years on your passport from the time you enter, that's a big one. So if you have a passport that's expiring within the next 3 to 6 months, usually it's fine. I know for Canadians, if we go into the US, our passport only has to be valid for the time we're in that country. Mexico sometimes is different. Caribbean sometimes different. And they want to see at least a 6-month window before your passport expires. In the event for some reason you get stuck in their country, they don't want your passport expiring. So definitely take a look. I know it's the travel.gc.ca website for Canada. You'll have to check for what country you're in just to see what they recommend. So that's a really important one too, before you enter it, when it comes to the visa requirements. So those in a nutshell really are things to ask yourself leading up to your trip to help you pick where you want to go, and then to try to find the best options that are available, and really figure out about finding those answers to what it is you want. What's the goal of your trip? Do you just want to relax? Do you want to spend a bit more to be pampered? Some resorts have butlers. Do you want a butler? Get yourself a butler, treat yourself. Really, it's up to you on what you want to do. And so many of us, I know, we work so hard and we look so forward to our vacations and our trips that it is something where you never want to be disappointed, because this is something that's special and that you're going to hold on to these memories for years upon years. So if you're wanting more adventure, you want to try something new, or maybe you want an eco adventure. Maybe when you say you want sun and sand, but you want to get out and be super adventurous, and you're willing to fly across the world, maybe you want to go to New Zealand. Maybe that's better for you. Or maybe you want to find those tropical Caribbean, laid back Mexico vibes, or culture and food. Maybe you can go to Japan if you want beautiful beaches, or Sri Lanka or India. And now you're immersed in a completely different culture. So, really, it depends on what you're looking for. I'm going to focus on the sun vacations, though. So, Caribbean and Mexico, ideally. Now, moving into these places, depending again on what you're looking for, the fly and flop or the go, 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 I want to chat about some tips for when you are at or arriving or leading up to your all inclusive vacation. So, all inclusive vacations are incredible because it's all included. You don't have to think about anything. You literally can leave your wallet in the safe in the room and bring a little bit of cash for some tips on the resort if you feel inclined. It is a very easy, stress-free way to travel that takes the guesswork, the questioning out of anything, which after doing that at work all the time, why not? Why not? So some tips for all inclusive. I'm going to start with before you leave. So leading up to the trip, always make sure you check in for your flight 24 hours prior. This is a great way to let the airlines know you're coming, to select a seat for free if you have not paid for one in advance. And just another once over of your flight itinerary so you can see what cities you're connecting through, how long your layovers are. You can double check there's been no changes, or so there's no surprises the next day when you're heading to the airport and all of a sudden there's a flight change that you got announced a couple days ago and you didn't know. So definitely check in for your flight 24 hours prior. You'll need your passport on hand to fill out the details, and you can just do that on whatever airline you're traveling on. You can do it on their website. Super easy that way. It also is a reminder on whether or not your bags are included. So if you didn't have that beforehand, depending on what fare you're booked in or what package you get, sometimes you get a bag, sometimes you don't. Again, for me, I don't like surprises. Okay, let me rephrase. I love surprises, but when it comes to traveling, I prefer to be prepared and just have the knowledge of knowing what to expect. I know that I'm checked in. I know that my bag's included. So when I get to the airport, I'm going into the line that says bag drop off. Easy, 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 easy. Definitely make sure you're at the airport with a solid amount of time, especially winter travel. It gets so busy. And leading up to Christmas, over the holidays, that is a very, very busy time for travel. So give yourself extra time. I've actually relied on the amount of time it recommended at the TSA like security check in at our airport one time. And it said it was only a 5 to 10 minute wait. And I was like, perfect. This is great. I'm already checked in. I got no bags to check. I'm going to head straight to security and I'm going to give myself a little bit less time because it's going to be a breeze. Well, joke was on me because I showed up and the lineup was so long. There was like 100 people in there and I was in the line sweating. I actually had some people, like, I was talking about it and they ended up helping me go a little bit further up in the line because I was worried I was going to miss my flight. So it's not a good feeling. If you don't want that feeling, just give yourself extra time. It's better to just be there and wait than be rushed and scrambled and you miss a flight. It's going to cost you to change it. All of the above. So those are the big ones for leading up or when you're at the airport for your trip. Now, once you are in destination, this is where it's going to be the most fun, obviously. So a lot of packages will already have airport transportation included, which is great. I always recommend before you leave again to upgrade. If it's a shared transfer from the airport to your hotel, especially after a long flight, the last thing you're going to want to do is be on a bus with a ton of other people and have to stop at every resort along the way. So what would have taken a 45-minute transfer maybe now is taking you an hour and a half. So you can sometimes, for not much more, upgrade to a private transfer where it's just you and whoever's with you to take you directly from the airport directly to your resort so you can start your vacation ASAP. That is something I like to do. Definitely try it if you haven't. There's some great local websites that you can use for it. Or if you book a package, of course, you can always talk to them just about upgrade for something more private. Absolutely recommend that. All inclusive resorts, again, it's all included, but just make sure your taxes and fees are included. A lot of the time on the packages with air and hotel, usually it's a one all in fee and you don't pay anything at the resort. In Mexico, they do have a $1 per day tourist tax. You just pay that when you check out. That is absolutely standard. So just take a look. And again, do your research, see what's online, talk to people and see what they've had to pay, but make sure that that is, so again, no surprises. I have had it before where somebody's booked airfare and the hotel's separate. And then they ended up realizing at the resort that they didn't actually they booked the hotel and they didn't actually have all their taxes and fees included. So they were hit with a bill that they weren't expecting at the resort. Not a fun feeling. So something to just be aware of. Also, when you're at the resort, I know in certain places in the Caribbean and Mexico, a lot of people always ask, what type of money do I bring? What should I bring? What's the currency? How does that work? What's the best? For Mexico, a lot of questions around Mexican pesos versus US dollars. I am a big believer that whatever country you're traveling to, that's the currency you should have. It's their country. It's their currency. They appreciate it. That's how they do all their business. So why shouldn't you? However, US dollars is highly, highly taken in majority of the Caribbean islands and majority of Mexico. It is an easy conversion, so US dollars is very easy to use. However, usually if you pay in pesos, you will get a better conversion. So a lot of the time things will still show in pesos, and an easy conversion is divide by 10. So you end up getting, is it by 10 or by 100? I don't know. Either or, look that one up. Look that one up. But basically, it's an easy, you drop a zero or two, and then that's what's gonna be what it is in US dollars. However, a lot of the time it's like a 0.8 conversion. So it's not actually the best. One thing you can do, which is what I rely on, this is why I don't know it off the top of my head, is I will download the XE Currency app, and that app will download the most recent conversion. And then when you're offline, so if you have your phone on airplane mode when you're in destination, you can use the app to kind of put the conversion in and get a rough idea of what you're paying. And it really is helpful just because if you're buying something, it can be a bit overwhelming to do the conversion. So definitely check out that app. XE Currency app is a really, really good one to use. Another thing actually on the touch point of being on airplane mode, nobody really ever wants to pay extra fees when you're in destination when it comes to roaming charges, data charges on your phone. So one app I used recently that was really, really good is called AirAllo, AIRALO. This app is an eSIM card. So it actually is going to have it's going to have a new SIM card that kind of goes into your phone electronically. You just do the setup. You purchase the data on it. So if you're, instead of Wi-Fi, this is going to give you data. So you still will only be able to make phone calls if you're using a Wi-Fi or data-based application, or you're making a call through WhatsApp or making a call through Facebook Messenger. That works really well. Text messages and everything won't work unless you're using like a WhatsApp or a Messenger. And it works so well. It's very inexpensive. You can get lots of gigs of data. So I really recommend it. I used it when I was in Maui recently and it worked fabulously. So I highly recommend that for you too when you're in destination. Now, another one is when you're at the resort. So let's say you've booked just the standard junior suite or garden view room, which is great, but you really wanted that ocean view room and you're thinking, well, you know what? I might as well just try to get it when I'm there. So you can do that, no problem. And what I recommend is when you check in, no matter what mood you are in, put a smile on your face and ask the people working there how they're doing. How's their week? What's new? Oh, we're so excited. This is the country we're from. We know we booked the garden view, but we're just curious if there might be anything available that has a little bit of the ocean view. It'd just be really nice to see. This is our first vacation this year, and we're just happy to be here. See what they say. You never know. A lot of the time, if they have something available, they can offer it to you, sometimes free, sometimes for a discounted rate, but it never hurts to ask and it doesn't cost you anything to smile and just be a decent human when you are asking. Be prepared if they say no. Okay, no problem. Thought I'd check. I always like to say, okay, if something comes available midweek, please let us know because we'd be happy to change rooms. Only say that, of course, if you actually are happy to change rooms. But again, you just don't know unless you ask. And we've had it before where we've changed rooms. We ended up getting this incredible ocean view room and we didn't have to pay anything extra. It just worked out that a bunch of people were checking out at the same time. So they had one available and they kept us in mind. And voila. So keep that in mind too for when you're there, just for that purpose. Now, some all-inclusives, I want to talk about timeshare. Timeshare resorts. Great. Super great. They can be kind of annoying, to be honest. We've been to all-inclusives where you go to the resort. They always usually have some sort of concierge or like the what's it called? Like an attraction desk to talk about all the things you can do in the area. I love scheduling those because you can look at the brochures with them. You can ask questions about what's close, how far things are away, if you want to go zip lining, ATVing, whatever you want to do. Those are great. There are some resorts that want to sell timeshare to people. So you basically you pay a certain amount per year, and then you get a certain amount of weeks at this resort. The way that you know that they're trying to sell you is they will say, hey, did you know you can get a free dinner? You can get a free upgraded show at a resort. You can get a free X, Y, or Z if you come tomorrow morning and you do a 1 hour only morning breakfast chat with one of our attendees. They won't call them timeshare hosts, but that's what they are. One of their, coordinators or whatever it is. So I always ask, okay, well, what do I have to do? And what's the purpose of the breakfast? Oh, well, let's just talk about our timeshare and what we have and the promotions we have. Okay. And what do I get for it? And usually it's $100 or $200 value depending per person. But here's what you need to know. It's very high pressure sales. That 1 hour can turn into 5. And if you are not comfortable to lay your foot down and say no, goodbye, then it is very, very easy to get wrapped up and caught up in all of the conversations they have. So I know it sounds intriguing. So those are the two things. I've done it before and we've walked away mid-sentence an hour later saying, no, hour's up. We're good. Thank you so much for the money. We appreciate the insight. It's not for us. We'll move on. We've had it before where we got caught up for 5 hours, 4 hours. And then in the end, we're like, wait a minute. No. We actually don't want to be spending this amount per year and keep coming back. Again, thank you. But it's very hard to leave because they're very good at sales. They're very good at their job. And it's a great job for them to have, mad respect for what they do. But for you, keep in mind that this is something that come up and decide whether or not that $100, $200, $300 is worth your time. And if you are prepared to very confidently say no and walk away, because those are the big things that I've always heard from people that have started talking to them. You can get very wrapped up and it's very hard to leave. And especially, a lot of us don't want to be rude, but in that situation, it's better to just be true to you and know what you want to do leading up into going into it, or just don't do it at all. I now just say no thanks, not interested, move on, call it a day. So those I would say are really important facts for when you're at the resort. And then definitely go out and explore. I know there's a lot of things happening all throughout the world, and it can be very daunting to hear on the media, but take a look. And a lot of the excursions or tours, they're all pre-booked. They're all through tour operators that the resorts know are reputable, that are going to take you out and bring you back because they want you to come back. Tourism dollars in these places are like gold. So having you have a great time and want to return and tell all your friends, it's very important. And some of these places are so incredible. You can go swimming in sinkholes and cenotes. You can do horseback riding on the beach. There's so many different things that are out there and really, really fun to do. So keep those in mind. Now, the last things too, I'm just going to end on are some other travel apps. I know I talked about the XE currency exchange. I talked about AirAllo, AIRALO, for really good data usage. Yelp is always a great one, especially if I'm looking to get off the property and go explore. I always like to go on Yelp, see what restaurants are in the area or what reviews they get, which ones are more authentic versus more touristy. And I'll even pre-book some reservations for that week and just say, yep, I'll grab a reservation here on this day and here on this day. And if it works, great. If not, I'll cancel it. But that is a great way to kind of see something different and see what other people are eating and enjoying that are absolutely delicious. So definitely use Yelp. And another one of my favorite apps is called Roam to Rio. So Rome, Rome, like the city in Italy, the number 2, and then Rio, Rio. So this app is your transportation app. This literally has everything you will need to figure out how to get from point A to point B. Plane, train, automobile, bus, taxi, boat, ferry. It will give you everything you'll need to go from point to point. So if you're wanting to maybe do a couple places, we've done it before where we've flown into St. Martin. And then we did a bit of time on St. Martin, and then we took a ferry over to Anguilla, spent a bit of time there. We've done the Caribbean where we have flown into St. Lucia, spent a week there. Then we flew over to Barbados. We really do like to switch up multiple destinations. I love it. It's like 2 trips in one, but figuring out how to get from point A to point B can be a bit daunting sometimes. So this app will help you understand the best transfers to get from one place to the next. And it will give you sites to book it on, what airlines they recommend. Highly recommend this app. Keep it, or even it goes even more above that. If you're planning a backpacking trip or multiple destinations throughout Europe or another part of the world, use this app. It is something that, it's really, really helped me in a lot of the travels that I've done too. So those I would say are the main apps that really can help for your trip too. So I really hope that this episode is something that's just giving you a bit more insight on how to narrow down what it is you're looking for in your holiday, then how to make sure that you're booking it that will fit right for you, what to do leading up to the trip prior to boarding and checking in, and then what to do when you're there. So there's a lot of really, really unique and useful tips. I hope these were great for you. Thanks so much. If you like this episode, please subscribe, download a few more, and leave a review. I really would love to hear from you, what you enjoyed and what your key takeaways were. And of course, please let me know if there's any aspect of the travel industry you want me to talk about next. You can also search for the hashtag SheDaresToTravelPodcast on Instagram and comment on the episode's post with your questions. I'd love to answer them all for you guys. I hope you enjoy your day, stay so well, and until next time, fly straight.